you can't attend the other one. We'll
Oh,
make
great.
sure.
So we'll be recorded then.
Yes, this will be recorded. We'll make sure we record most of them. I'm on it, but
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
oh, that's much better. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, folks, thank you. So we'll try again here. As an instructor, you will simply click this button right here, and Anatomy and Physiology Revealed will open in a new tab. So it'll open here in a new browser tab. And first things first, APR is a systems-based product. So everything is going to be located using a body system. So the first selection you must make is some sort of body system. So I'm going to choose nervous system. As soon as I choose nervous system, by default, I'm given the dissection option. But I also want to show you there are several other areas of content, and we will explore these all in due time. So by default, you'll start with dissection because it's the most used component of APR. We also have a 3D model. We have animations. We have histology, imaging, radiology, as well as a quiz. I'm going to go back to muscular just because it does a very good job of showing a lot of the different layers. So I'm in muscular system with the dissection. The next thing I need to do is select a topic. I'm going to go to the thorax. And in the thorax, I only have an anterior view. Sometimes you'll have options, right? Whether you choose anterior, posterior, lateral, something like that. I want to see all of the muscles of the thorax. And I'd actually like to see muscles acting on the humerus. And you can see then what happens is that different structures show up because of the group I selected. And I can click on those structures. I also have the ability to work down here by using these layers. So in the bottom left, you can see here I have 5 different layers. When I clicked on this radio button, it will show up these pins. So here's the surface projection. It's not liking that highlight color. Okay. I can take that skin, that slider bar, and take it right away to get to layer 2. I can even grab layer 2 and remove that to get to layer 3. I might say, you know what, show me all of the pins or the tags for layer 3, and I can hover over these, right? So here's the external intercostal muscle and membrane. Notice when I click on the structure, I get a lot of information that shows up over here. So I get the name of the muscle.
Pectoralis minor muscle.
Every structure in APR will be pronounced correctly. It's about 3,600 structures. This eyeball is the other views button. It'll show me other places where pectoralis minor is found. And if I go like that, I want to show you. So here is pectoralis major. I'm showing it. In this case, because I clicked on it from this menu, it just shows me the structure. This information icon right here will show me pectoralis major. So I get all of its actions, its origin, insertion, innervation, and comments about it. Here's the other views button that I talked about. We could jump to that view. Also, when the muscle also has an animation, you'll see this animation. I guess whenever the structure has an animation, the animation will show up. So these are new modules that we created in January, and then I guess last academic year we completed these. We have these for about 40 different muscles, and the way this works is it will play this 3D model showing the animation. I have the ability to change the view right here. So I can look at flexion of the arm at the shoulder joint from a lateral view. I might say, okay, what does a adduction of the arm look like? Here it is from the anterior view. I could also look at it from the lateral view. Notice that when you click play, the model automatically resets, right? We're preventing that. We don't have that looping, so a student doesn't get that kind of misconception of the muscle is moving that joint in both ways. The model completely resets and the joint starts over. Also, this is something that you can click on. Wherever you see blue here, that's clickable. You can see the attachments of each muscle with this illustration. So we've used these dotted lines to kind of denote attachment. And here's that same origin, insertion, and innervation information that was found right over here. So the animation simply picks up that content and reinforces it. So we've really got a nice kind of neuromuscular thing right here with innervations, attachments, and actions. So going back to the dissection part, right, kind of going through by layers, I can take these layers and I really can be pretty creative in terms of what I might do here. So I might do something like leave external intercostal, and I can kind of fade in and out a little bit and keep some opacity. So you really can be really creative and then end up saving this image. So you could just use screen capture software to capture this if you wanted to, or you can also use this camera icon over here that says save image. And this will work a little bit different in every browser. I'm using Google Chrome. It's telling me for the custom image to use the screen capture software. Safari works a little bit differently where you can save it from right here, but you can easily save sort of the stock photo right here. You can just do save image or even copy image and copy and paste that, or save it and use it somewhere else. You can also quickly get access to all of these layered images. So what a lot of instructors will do is just come in here, save that image, save the next image, and add these to their PowerPoint to show a series of dissections, or even use these in their own exam questions. Obviously, in a virtual setting, it could be a little bit different, but you might copy that image and use that for an activity that you're doing over a virtual class meeting where maybe you quiz students informally, have them use the chat feature or something like that. And then finally, there's a skeletal view here as well. Some of the different options along the side, you can see as soon as I highlighted a muscle, I get some different options down the side. This first one, the clipboard, gets me back to my list of structures. The icon for structure information shows me all of the details. I'm going to come back to the create link. I've shown you the save image. This is a feature that turns on directional labels, and this can be useful for that novice learner to show them where superior, inferior, right and left are. Maybe if we're looking at an organ, it'll show them proximal from distal. And this view right here is the current view feature. And this is to give a frame of reference, right? So that novice student might not realize that they're looking just at a thorax, but by clicking on current view, they kind of get that zoomed out view of where they are. Students can change their highlight color, and this is really important for students with color vision issues. So there are default colors that come with each body system. I've used the purple quite a bit, and you could change that to something else that works. And you can change that by system. It'll remember your choice until you clear your cache in your web browser. And you can even show highlight, hide highlight. This can be useful for finding some of the smaller structures, like think about some of the small little processes in the skull. So sometimes going show highlight will allow you to find that. You can add an arrow, and the arrow is just a small yellow arrow, and it's, you know, it's not been placed there. It's using computer programming to find the edge of the highlight. But that's another feature that can help draw attention to things. So I could go, the other thing right away is this search bar. So think about APR really as it's a digital human anatomy atlas. So I would tell my students, if you're not studying with APR open, you know, you might be studying lecture, right? You might be reading lecture notes. But if you don't have APR open and aren't using this to search for a structure that you come across, you know, you're kind of hurting yourself. So maybe you're in respiratory and you come across bronchial tree, you can quickly search for that. And you can see that it's finding all of these structures here. So I could go, here's the bronchus. I could look for, here's lobar bronchus in respiratory. So that search bar is very useful to be able to find structures. Here's another good example of the layers, right? So I can go through these different layers and really start to show some anatomical relationships between these structures. So that's the dissection. And again, the dissection will be available for all of the body systems, for the 11 body systems. There is also content that covers body orientation for your early in your course, some cells and chemistry if you're an A&P course, and also tissues. Animations. So when you click on animations, you'll get animations related to those body systems. And we kind of have them broken out into a couple main categories. There'll be a category here that will show you sort of general A&P related animations. Some of these are, you know, ones that have been around for a while.
Fresh air entering the lung carries oxygen,
but are definitely still effective. Some of them have a icon next to them that say 3D. There's about 50 that look like this.
The respiratory system, right?
And all of these have closed captioning that can be turned on, and you can control volume on or off. These follow a pretty kind of standard template where it talks about the topic, and then it'll show you both gross anatomy as well as microscopic anatomy. Do a nice job of relating anatomy and physiology together. And then, you know, here's the process of respiration as well. So it's really a pretty integrative video that shows both A&P content. We also have a listing here of clinical application. So this is that same style of the 3D video. Most of the beginning of them cover sort of a brief normal view or a normal coverage of anatomy and physiology for that topic. And then towards the end, they get into, okay, now what goes wrong in asthma, right? So they really get this clinical application part. These are great animations for engaging your students, showing them, you know, at the start of the respiratory system, hey, this is why this matters, right? This is why you need to learn the anatomy and physiology of the respiratory system, because at the end, we'll be able to apply this to a situation like asthma. And then towards the end, depending on the clinical application, they'll cover a brief little bit about possible treatments, whether that be surgical or pharmaceutical. So that's kind of what you'll get to expect under the clinical application. I want to draw, kind of specifically call out some other ones. In the skeletal area, we have a series of we have a series of animations that cover joint movements. So something like this. It starts, these are the older animations. These animations had been around for about 10 years or so. We kept this actor here, but what we did was add to it that 3D model as well. So this is that same 3D model that you saw in the muscular system, but we took off the muscles so that you could really see what's going on at the joint, right? You really get a better view of the joint anatomy and how it allows all of these different joint movements. And you can see for the glenohumeral joint, all of the different actions are available. So again, you know that students struggle with joint movements and muscle actions. So you really have some nice resources here. So when it's available, this kind of real person video will start first, and then below it will be the 3D model joint. Just like in the muscular system, these have some really nice labeling here of the joint anatomy. You can go down here when you see this yellow arrow. You can also see a deep view of the joint. So again, these are under the skeletal system under joint movements. And you'll see the muscle ones under the muscular system. I want to call out another source of animation content. And this is the kind of the final one right here. You'll see the topic, and then it'll say interactive. And they look something like this. These are our concept overview physiology interactives. And they're based on the student kind of has to do something on each screen. So here, the directions will always be down here. You can see when the student moves the structure, they get content about it. So rather than just an animation where you hit play, this is a place here where you can see some content. And you move through them right up here at the top. So in this case, click and drag to zoom into each region. I can zoom in to read more about skin. These are really focused on physiological topics. So we have 11 of these that cover 11 different topics. Valerie, I'm going to pause here to see if there's some questions. I'm going to see if I can open the chat too. Any questions that have shown? It looks like there are.
Yeah, one is really just to show the 3D model, but I think you're getting to that.
I am, yes.
And then I also shared that these interactives that you're showing now are available in your question banks inside Connect. And we do have correlation guides that correspond directly to your textbook. So I'll put my email in the chat. And if you would like the correlation guide that corresponds to your textbook, please just email me and I'll send that right out to you. Just let me know which textbook you're using. And that's all I see, Michael.
Okay, good. So we'll look at each of these units. Let's look at histology now. So histology works somewhat similar. I click on histology. I have a body system chosen, and then I can choose any topic. And then I've got different views. So when available, if there are more histological images, I can select from there. And it works very similarly, right? I go through and I can click on structures. I can turn on the tags. So similar to the dissection, where I can go ahead and click. Okay. Again, I might change my highlight color. Maybe for histology, yellow will be different, better contrast, right, with all the purples in histology. So that's how histology works. And you'll find histology content basic, kind of identify the tissues under tissues, and then specific histology to each body system will be under that system. That save image feature still works here in histology. Let's look at imaging or radiology. Again, very, very similar. All kinds of different images. This is a CT, obviously. Go back to my purple. There's some neat. Here's a CT anterior with some radio opaque dye in the arterial system. Some really neat structures here, as well as just a straightforward image as well. There's also a quiz. And the quiz is really designed as a self-quiz for students. So really sort of a formative assessment. And I'll show you where, as we progress, I'll show you where you can find a bank of content that you could make different levels of assignments and potentially summative if you wanted to. This is really made as sort of like, hey, quiz me on all of my structures related to the heart. And there's a couple different quiz types. Combination will give all of these, but there's lab practical, multiple choice, click to identify. We'll do a combination and see what we draw here. So I have to click on the septomarginal trabeculae, right? So let's say I get it incorrect. You can see when I click it incorrect, it highlights the correct region, tells me that I got it wrong, right? This time I got it right. So I'm getting a lot of click to identify. Here's a multiple choice, right? The structure's highlighted right here. Here's a good example of maybe adding the arrow to help me find that structure, or even show highlight, or even change colors to better find it. So you can kind of see here, the lab practical type. Let's see if we draw one here. The lab practical is pretty specific. You do have to use the structure names that are in APR. So I would say you will want to experiment with that a little bit to see if you would recommend it to students, simply because it's very specific to the content in APR. And I know from grading, thousands of lab practicals in my experience with colleagues, that it's always hard to find exactly what you're looking for, right? So take a look at that. When the quiz is finished, you could click End Quiz. You get a screen here that looks like this. This does generate a PDF. So it does generate a PDF with my name, the topic of the quiz that I took, my score, the time and date stamp, what I got right and what I got wrong. And sometimes what instructors will do is have students save this as a PDF and upload it somewhere to their learning management system as kind of proof of completion. So a common scenario would be, hey, study the cardiovascular system or study the heart content, and then go and take a quiz and upload your highest score. Maybe you need 80% or 90% for competency, for completion, and that'll kind of be proof that you've completed it. And again, I'll show you some things that work on an auto grading where you could be more specific with summative assignments. But this is a nice option as sort of a proof of work. The thing for a student, the reason this is a very effective self-quiz is they right here, this is a live link. So if they got these questions wrong, like they're practicing for an upcoming quiz or lab practical, they can click on the structure and be taken right there in APR and study that. As long as they don't start a new quiz, they click on quiz, this is still here. So this is a really nice sort of remediation for them to practice, to see what they know. And if they don't know it, they can go and study that content right there. I'm going to show a couple other things, and then we will go to the 3D model as well. So one of the things that we might have seen is that there's a tab here for my course content and all content. and I can toggle between the two. And the difference here is all content is all of the structures in APR. It's all 3,600 structures. My course content is content that I have specifically, as an instructor, I've said, I want my students to see this content. So it's the customization of the content. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But before I do, I also want you to be aware that there are help videos that cover all of this. So anywhere I am in APR in the bottom left, I click on the help screen and I can get information here about navigation. So all of the icons that are used are explained. There's information here for keyboard shortcuts. So this is important for students who are using keyboard navigation. These are some shortcuts that they can use. They can also use standard keyboard navigation like tab and a space bar and a return key. There's information here about the help videos. So all of these videos will cover things that we've talked about, like more in depth about dissection right there, imaging and histology, animation interactives, the quiz. This video right here, Course Content Builder, this is the only one that this will show up in your account as an instructor. Students won't see this. They'll see all of the other help videos, however. This Course Content Builder will walk you through.
To create a course list, click on the.
It'll walk you through the process of customizing your content. And I'm going to show you how to do that quickly, but also, again, remember that you can watch this video as many times as possible. So I go back here to APR, to the home screen, and in the bottom right, I can select Edit My Course Content. So I had timed out over here because I opened this earlier. Okay, so this is the screen, should look like this. So it's going to open up a second screen, and you have the ability to create a list name right here. So you might call this whatever your course is called, right? And you can see some examples over here. You can call this the name of your course. You can start a new list from scratch. You can start a new list from a code. So if you've gotten a code from an instructor, or you can align it to a textbook. So let's say you're a new user to APR, but you know you're using the Saladin Human Anatomy book. You can select that and create a code. And what it's going to do is it's going to use all of the structures in. It's going to use all of those structures there as a start and align to that book. So any structure that was in the book, let's try a different book, will also be correlated there. Something going on. I have to look into that. So I guess the difference would be here, we started a new list from scratch. I think Muscular System is always a great place to start because we could go in here and look at, let's say, muscles of the trunk. What muscles do you want your students to know, right? So you might say, I want them to know erector spinae as a group. I'm not really concerned if they know the difference between iliocostalis, longissimus, and spinalis. All of these blue links, you basically have the ability to open up a little thumbnail. And this is sort of what you're assigning. In the database here, every muscle or every structure has been associated with sort of its one best view. Where is the one best image that shows that muscle? So you see here that you really have the ability to be incredibly specific with the content that you're choosing. So another good place is like the hand, right? What intrinsic muscles of the hand do you want people to know? Do you want them, are they responsible for knowing all of these? You could certainly click that. Are you an intro course where you're focused on the simple fact that they should know thenar from hypothenar? You can do that. And what you do is as you go along, you can save this content. Here's the really neat thing. The neat thing that is that this list is evergreen. You can continuously update this. So right now you might be feeling a little overwhelmed, like, holy cow, my lab starts next week. How am I going to go through all of these body systems? You can work unit by unit. So you could get all of the content aligned for the first unit, save your list, and then while students are working in the first unit, you can update that content for the second unit, the third unit, and so forth. After you've saved your list, you publish it. And what this does is generate a unique alphanumeric code. So for this course, for this example, this up capital Q, lowercase h, V8R, this is now my custom code. And again, I can continuously update this. So I could go in 5 minutes later, add structures to it and hit save and publish, and that would be pushed out to the user real time. So what happens with this code is the first time a student comes into APR, they get prompted. They get a message that says, have you received a custom structure code for APR? And they say yes, and then they paste the code in. I can't show you it's shown in the video. I can't show you exactly what that looks like because it's not my first time into APR, but it looks something like this. So the box would say, did you receive a my course content code? This is where I paste in that code. And now I'm seeing content from that list. So where was I? I was in Muscular System. When I go to Muscular System and look at the hand, I'm only going to see structures that I had chosen. All content is all of that content, but this my course content is the ability to take all of the content in APR and narrow it down specifically to your course. And that's why APR is used by AP biology courses all the way through medical courses because of that customization. I think this would be a great place to pause. I'm going to look at the chat.
I think you're good in the chat unless someone has any questions. If you'd want to unmute yourselves.
There was a question that was asked to me about the APR formative quiz.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Can students retake only the questions they missed on their first attempt to achieve 100%? No, it'll actually start an entire new quiz. So if I go to quiz and do a quiz type, I will get a brand new quiz each time. So randomly from that group of 10 questions, from all of the structures, if I choose 10 or 25, I'll get a random quiz each time. So the quiz is really, it'll be a unique quiz each time, depending upon the content. Okay. So now let's take a look at what we have not yet talked about, and that is the 3D model. Actually, I'm going to switch my list. Okay, I've got that list. Good. So now we're going to look at the 3D models that exist. You can also customize this content. So we have two 3D models right now. They'll show up under regional anatomy, but they'll also show up under when they apply to one of the body systems. So in this case, they'll also show up under specific body systems. So we have a head and neck and a heart 3D model. It will take a few seconds for this to load, and it will probably take a little bit longer on WebEx. But once this model is loaded, it is fully active. So it's basically kind of like that buffering, but it's completely done. So at no other point will this need to load anything. So I get information right here about how I can change the visibility. Also, I can get information about how to use the 3D model by opening the help screen. And this will walk you through. This is brand new. This just went live on Friday. This kind of slide by, sort of tutorial here will show you how to use the 3D model. And this will show up for students as well. So you can come back to that, X that out. I can grab the model over here with my mouse and just start rotating. I can also use the navigation over here. So I can use, I found this to be pretty helpful when I'm trying to get like a specific, like just a little bit of a turn. I can do that. However, I will say the navigation with my mouse is pretty nice. It's just the right amount of sensitivity. And I can also zoom in, and you can see the incredible clarity of this model. So I can do a couple different things. I can turn on tag mode, and tag mode basically becomes the ability to click on structures and hover and see where they are. I can reset the model at any time by clicking the square. These menus are all expandable. So I can expand these menus. Anywhere where you see a dot here, or I guess where there's a circle with, these are my different options. I can make things transparent. So I can make all of the skeletals, all of the skull transparent, or I can completely hide it. I can completely hide all of the muscles. I could take away cardiovascular. So now I'm focused just on the nervous system model. Within the nervous system, I have other options, right? So I can expand here and click. When it's blue and I click on it, the structure will highlight. I get that structure information. So just like we had in the dissection part, I get information. I can hide the lobes of the cerebrum. I can hide the cerebellum. And now really focus in here on the brainstem. So I clicked on amygdala, clicked on caudate nucleus, and you can see that those are highlighted. Sometimes, obviously, I'll have to remove some structures or hide some structures to see things that are deeper to it. But you have a lot of potential here, especially in the nervous system model, where you can take that ventricular system and make it transparent, or you can completely hide it. We added a feature over here because of the ability here of, it's really endless in how you might configure this. So if this is a view that you would want your students to get to, like let's say this is something that you found really useful for your students, or maybe even for your own teaching, you can come over here to the Create Link feature, click on Create Link, and you can copy this link to a clipboard. And what I would suggest you do is, as you start exploring this, start a Google Doc or start a Word document where you put down these links, and you can make a list of these links, you know, and call it something like brainstem with cranial nerves, and copy and paste that link. Because what you can do in Connect, go in here, is from the Connect platform, you can create something called a web activity, which is essentially just taking links, but putting it on the assignment page. Come back here. Let's do something different. Let's hide the spinal cord. Let's hide all the cranial nerves. And do something like this where I copy this link and I can put this here. I can give this a due date. Now there's really no points assigned to this, but by doing this, it allows you to get it to your Connect course or to get it to your LMS if you're using our integration. But the nice thing is students can go right there. So this is the student view. And students will see, you could have added some text here, like explore these different functions. When I click on that link as a student, the model will load, but it's going to come to that exact place that I had saved the link for. So essentially, it's like a bookmark. So it's a really valuable way of getting your students to a specific location in that 3D model. You can see this is exactly like the view I had copied over here. So you could make a series of these links to almost essentially get them to different parts in the model. You could embed these into your PowerPoint materials as well. Just realize that APR is password protected. So if you don't have it linked through Connect, the first time you click on it, you'll have to sign in and then click on it again and it will launch. That's why this web activity is very useful, because it already knows that you have a valid APR account. So it knows, oh, you're a licensed user, and you can get right there. Let's switch to the heart 3D model. Very similar, but now we're just focused on a heart. In a few weeks, we will have our thorax 3D model that will be getting ready to launch, and that will be added right into APR as well. Okay, a couple questions. Okay, this 3D model will not work on an iPad. It will not work on a mobile browser. It only works on a laptop or desktop browser, and it also doesn't work in Safari. It will work on Google Chrome or another browser, and that is because of the software. It's called Unity, and the software that we've used to take the 3D images. So essentially, behind the scenes, these are all polygons, and it's been transferred into the computer. The programming is converting it to actual structures. Our computer engineering side, they suspect that over time, Safari will allow Unity. They just don't right now. At some point, they're probably will support it. But you know how Apple is. They work a little bit differently. So does it work on a mobile device at this time? Again, similar model system. I could make cardiovascular hidden, and here's the conduction system. Or I might turn on sort of a transparent heart. And isn't this awesome to be able to see parts of the conduction system in relation to the heart, right? We obviously see this in illustrations, in textbooks, but this is a really neat way to see parts of the conduction system. So here's the atrial bundle. Right? And again, that create link will work here. So let's go back. Let's go back to Connect and show you some of the places where you might make very specific assignments that become summative, or maybe just you really want to control content, right? So a common way that APR will be used is somebody might say, okay, go in and look at specific content that exists. I did make a mistake. I neglected to show you that when we were other places in APR, that create link feature exists. So I could actually do create link right here as well. And this would get students right to this module, or right to layer 5 here in this cardiovascular view of the axilla. So you could use that create link feature to give your students some links, or you could just tell them, go study the cardiovascular content that's in shoulder and arm, anterior arteries, anterior, something like that. And then come back to Connect and take this quiz. So I did add assignment right here, question bank. If you're using Connect with our textbook, the default will be what you'll see first are chapters of our textbook. Here I'm in a course that just has lab content. I'll go right here to Anatomy and Physiology Revealed Question Bank, and I get all of the same modules that exist in APR. So maybe I want to look for interactive content in the cardiovascular system, and I'll see that I have 167 questions. You can filter these questions by doing something like labeling. This alone, this interactive is primarily labeling, so it wouldn't make sense to search by multiple choice. But this is what some of these questions look like. This is that first layer of the head and neck cardiovascular dissection view. Here's the next layer. So we have these drag and drop questions. And you could add this to an assignment, right? So maybe this is lab homework, cardiovascular. Okay. I could go in here and get all kinds of other questions. Maybe I wanted to get some branches of the aorta in here. I might say, you know what? Actually, I can use the topic over here, or the section, to search for content as well. I can even just use Control F, like searching in my browser, and here's all kinds of heart content. So maybe I want to add some of these different coronary vessels. I'm going to jump to the multiple choice. And you can see, like, maybe I'm specifically looking for the right coronary artery. Can easily find that. I can add this. So I can add questions to an assignment. And then when I come to the next page, I have all of my options for this assignment. So these are what we call our policy settings. Obviously a due date, need some sort of due date. But I can call this whatever I want. And what this icon will show up. So if homework works for you, you could choose homework. If you want it to be practice, you could call it practice. If you want this to be a low stakes quiz, you could go ahead and select the quiz icon and terminology, or exam, whatever works for you. But you have the ability for all of these to edit the settings. So I might do something like, okay, I want a quiz where I'm going to give a time limit of, 20 questions. They'll get 20 minutes for 20 questions. I'm going to scramble the questions. I'm going to give them actually 2 attempts. And if they need a second attempt, they can start over. Or you can see that you could choose revise. Or you could let them do a second attempt, but deduct a score. Tons and tons of possibilities here. Feedback. You have a large class. You don't want students to send out the correct answers. You could say, okay, after your first submission, you'll just see total scores. And then you'll hold the feedback. So maybe an hour after the due date, the student can see all of the information. Or maybe you allow people to take makeups. I allowed students to take a makeup, for a quiz up to 24 hours later. So I used to choose 24 hours after this quiz, everyone can get all of their feedback back. So tons of options here. You can really see how you can make this be something that's homework oriented, where they're just going through it and, you're allowing them multiple attempts to get 100%, or even quiz, or something more restrictive as an exam. We have a partnership with Proctorio, which is a lockdown browser that will go live on August 21st. So you might choose the option, you know what, this is going to take the place of my lab practical. I'm going to have an exam in which, over here on this page, you'll say something like enable Proctorio, in which students will have a lockdown browser, and maybe I will also have them, be recorded. And again, that's kind of your option to do. But know that is something that will be live on August 21st. So that Proctorio feature might be a way to do more of a high stakes quiz. You could easily create assignments where they do a bunch of practice and then maybe graduate to taking that lab kind of quiz type thing. And then I would just do review and assign, and that would show up here on my page. So this becomes an assignment that students will see on their page. I click student view. It'll look something like this. And a student would work through this. How about any questions, Valerie? It looks like I don't see anything in the chat. If people want to ask verbally, might be the time.
Yes, if you want to unmute yourselves, there's just a little microphone to the right of your name. Or if you hover over the screen, you can just click that microphone on the bottom left. If you do have any questions, I don't see any in my chat.
So remember, in APR, the help videos are extremely useful. Valerie, can we also, are you sending an email out afterwards? I guess the other thing is, here, let's just put this link in here. I'm going to put this link in the chat. This is a great link to click on and to bookmark, because what we have here is a series of articles. So I actually just wrote an article about some like top 5 views of the head and neck model. And there are links there that you could use. It'll just give you an idea of how you might use some of these 3D model links. We also have an article here by Matt that shows how to use that create link feature. So this is sort of a step-by-step guide to creating that web activity that I showed you about.
We do have one question that says, are the tests automatically scored?
Okay, great point. So when I was here in Connect, I didn't mention that. These, when you're creating a quiz in Connect using the question bank, these are all auto-graded assignments. These are all things that are, these are multiple choice or labeling questions. This will all generate grading automatically. So this is the difference, right? This becomes a very specific quiz where you control the content that's in it. You control the policy settings. You'll get the grade in your Connect platform. The quiz here in APR, think of this as, this is a student quiz, really a self quiz. This is really something that was kind of designed for students to gauge their understanding. People have leveraged it a little bit to, show some work that's done, but you don't really have many options here. You can use the create link feature, however. See how that pops up right here? So you could say, okay, class, I want you to take a quiz on the vascular structures of the thorax that's click to identify, that's 10 questions long, and you could give them this link. And what you could do is tell them when they're finished, they would save their results and submit it to you. But again, this wouldn't be auto-graded. But it would be something that you could do. You could be creative. I'm going to put my email in here as well. If you have questions about maybe using this in other ways. Okay, any last questions? It looks like I went a minute over time.
Yes, if you would like a recording or any follow-up questions, I have my email in the chat as well, and you can reach out to either Michael or myself, and we can get you a recording. Your personal sales rep or your personal representative also will have the recording. So if you would like to reach out to one of us, we'll be happy to share that with you. Well, thank you so much for attending, and thank you, Michael. This was an awesome overview, and I think hopefully everyone got some really good ideas for their fall courses.
Thank
Great.
you.
Well, have a great rest of your day, and best wishes for a fall semester.
Thank you.
You.
Take care.
You too.